Hello. So obviously this is a stream. There's a new camcorder. So if anybody wants to see any of the features on it or whatever, I'll see if I can display it on the webcam. I've not tried plugging this into the computer yet, in the sense of seeing if there's any way of streaming through the camcorder. Because I know with some models that's possible. Others you need like a capture card type thing to do it. But yeah, really impressed with it so far. But obviously a lot of the things at the moment is learning how to do stuff with it. Because, you know, when I get that old Sony one I used out in comparison, literally looks like a toy, doesn't it? Sort of on size comparison. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious if you look at the two why this one's obviously the better model now. You know, size-wise. But yeah, so I filmed 2 videos of it so far. The one I did the test upload on yesterday, the 4K one, although most of them are not going to be in 4K just because it's a pain in the arse in terms of how much space it takes up on the SD card inside, and sort of just how you know, like, stuff doesn't want to render it. Basically it just keeps crashing the renderer. But 1080p is absolutely fine, and the nice thing is my PC can render higher quality 1080p video on this quicker than it could with my old camcorder. Which gas mask are you on about? But yeah, so a lot of people said the sound quality sounded better on it, and the reason for that is, I don't know how well you can see that there. There's one microphone there and another microphone there on it, where the Sony one just had like one smaller front microphone. So this essentially has a left and right channel for the microphone. Yeah, it looked very strange, but they didn't ship to the UK anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, very old looking mask. Yeah, as I was saying, annoyingly, most of the videos I won't be doing in 4K with it, just because, sadly, still there's not enough PC stuff that accepts 4K. But in terms of, like, you know, 1080p, it does better 1080p than my old camcorder and everything. Well, this is done on a webcam, not a camcorder. The camcorder's right there. Tell you what, if I turn this round, what I'll do is just elevate the bit here, and then I'll see if I can get this actually facing the like webcam, so you can just sort of have a look. Yeah, I don't know how visible that's obviously going to be on the. I don't know, Survive. You certainly couldn't do that through YouTube. Whether or not I could do it via OBS or whatever, I'd have to look into. But I'd probably just use my current setup. I was just sort of getting this out to demonstrate it. So, yeah, I can't remember how far zoomed in I had it. So, yeah, let's fully zoom it out. There we go. But, yeah, the problem is obviously you're not going to see very well through the LED, sort of LCD screen, or whatever it is on there. That's probably the best angle for seeing it with the webcam. Hello, Vladimir. How are you? And then if I zoom in, I think the autofocus is on at the moment. So let's see if yeah, it is, because look, you can see on there, you know, boy in GP5 on the poster. All right. If you want to see how it looks for sort of text quality, let me go to the mini monitor Geiger counter, which is there, and you should be able to actually can't, I don't think, annoyingly, at the angle where the screen is, but you can actually just, you can read the text fine on there with your eye. If you watch my old videos, Johnny, you know I would have done. Yeah, let's see if there's anything a bit more directly sort of in front, just so you can see it. You can see sort of how good the quality of the optic is on there. All right, Mike? So yeah, just trying to find somewhere where I can sort of show detail with it more easily. See if I can get like the serial number up on the SLR. There you can see where it says 7.62mm L1A1 UB. Let me just see if actually no, if I take that off there, it's a pain in the ass to put back, isn't it? Let me just adjust that screen to the bit where you can see it most easily. But yeah, the point is obviously it's really good. And what you might be able to see there, you can see the left and right audio channel. So basically, you might notice that when I'm talking on this side, one of the bars goes up more than the other, and that's because it has the left-right audio recording on this, which is quite good, just with the onboard mic. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could buy a really big external mic that would sit on top, but I don't think there's any need, because this already has a better inbuilt 2 microphones than my old camera's 1 microphone, and I just use that on all the old videos anyway. Battery life on this, if anybody's interested, in 1080p, it does about 212 minutes, or when it's fully charged, I guess about 220 minutes. And 3 hours, because I've got some stuff on the SD card stuff still, so about 4 hours of 1080p 35 megabytes per second footage on the memory card. So I'll flick that off for now. Yeah, if anybody was just interested in what it looked like, there you go. I've got the big lens hood thing on it, but you don't obviously have to have that on. That just comes off like that. So that's obviously it with the optic, and you can actually manually focus this, which is really nice, where obviously a lot of camcorders and stuff I've had in the past are autofocus only. But this one, the nice thing is obviously, let's get that back on, because that's sort of my lens cover. There's a smaller lens cover for it, but I prefer having the big one on. Yeah, that's lined back up again. And I can, which side was the switch on? There you go. Close that back up. Yeah, I suppose I could do mic, not that I'd really be interested in doing that sort of thing, but yeah, obviously, yeah, I'm really pleased with this, which is good, but yeah, there's a massive difference, obviously, between like a £1,000 camcorder and 150, £200 camcorder, but for most people, you know, a standard camcorder is fine. One of the things I do really like on this, I don't think I can really display it in this video, is I figured out now how to change all the color temperature of the lighting, which is really good. So it means if I'm filming in a room where the lighting's a bit yellow, you can make it look more natural, even, you know, without putting filters over the lens and everything. I might do a Geiger counter ASMR video at some point as a joke, but yeah, I'm certainly not going to do normal ASMR videos. Well, buy it then if there's one for £10. No, Mike's got a couple survive, so you might want to ask him. I've got the GoPro Hero 2 still somewhere. And if you want an action camera, it's good. If you want a camera for anything else, that's shit, really. The issue with GoPro style cameras is they have awful microphones. And if you have them in the plastic case, the microphone quality is even worse. The other issue is, I don't know if they've changed this on the newer ones, but on my GoPro 2, it could only have a fixed field of view, you know, like a fixed focus at a certain range. So while that was good for an action camera, it meant a lot of stuff, you know, you might be too close or too far away from the camera and it would be out of focus. Well, the thing is, I can still record with the old camcorder. So if I want, Vladimir, if I wanted to do a video with 2 camcorders, I could still film this and have some 1080p footage using the old camcorder. But in terms of like this, obviously I'm using this for everything now just because it's a much better camcorder, so everything will look better on it. Yeah, for some things Survive, they are better, but for general video making, they're really not. And I can say that from experience having a GoPro. You know, that I bought it thinking I'd get a lot of use out of it, and then I realised I didn't like using it for a lot of stuff, just because I'd have to ADR most of the audio because it would always not be good enough on the actual footage. Lots of the time you couldn't really tell if it was in frame or not, where it didn't have a back screen. I know more sort of action cams have back screens now. You know, you couldn't actually tell if it was lined up properly, so you might start recording film stuff and then find out loads of the footage was useless. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, Mike, there are some that are probably quite good, especially if it's a GoPro ripoff that's cheaper than the GoPro. Like I said, it's not like I'm disappointed with my GoPro, it's just I don't think I was really in the right demographic for it. You know, I bought it because at the time it was when GoPro, because it was when the Hero 2 hadn't been out all that long. and it was where you know, so action cams are a relatively new thing. It's where I thought, you know, doing YouTube videos with bows and crossbows or whatever, that would be better. But it turns out, for the most part, just a tripod with a standard camera on is far better. Cheers, Miles. Let's see if the GoPro's in the drawer there, because I do definitely have one. Where it is at the moment, I don't know. But a lot of the cameras I store in this drawer. Yeah, it is in there. So just to prove to you I'm not talking bullshit, you know, like slating the GoPro for no reason. Hang on. There you go. There's my Hero 2. What type of SD card have I got in there? Because I might actually nick it for another camera. Well, not nick it, but you know, because it's my card. But let's have a look. It's only an 8 GB. You can tell how much camera cards have come along now. A 64 gig is like fairly cheap to get one of those. Yeah, I'll keep that in there then. But yeah, like I was saying, the main issue I've had with the GoPro is it's just, especially the Hero 2, I know this is quite an old model now, absolutely awful microphone on it. And you can't obviously adjust the focus. So quite often you'll find stuff is just horribly out of focus. Obviously the case is good for keeping it, you know, like in good condition and all that. That is one of the advantages of something like a GoPro, is that, you know, anyway, I'll pop that back in the drawer now. But yeah, so I've got the GoPro, but I said it rarely ever gets used for anything. They're not awful, but it's, again, it's not a standard video camera. You'd really need to be doing sports type stuff where you're moving quickly. Yeah, exactly, Mike. I remember when I first got a digital camera, when they were not brand new, but, you know, like they'd only been out a couple of years. You know, I think there must have been like 4 or 5 megapixel was a high-end digital camera at that point, you know, for a compact. I know DSLRs were always a bit better than that. And that was where, you know, like 512 megabytes, 1 gigabyte was the standard SD card sizes, you know. 2 or 4 gig would have been like a massive one. How many cameras? Right. Cameras total, that would be quite hard to do, because a lot of old cameras, unless they get totally broken, I never throw them away. So, you know, I've got a lot of cameras that are just sat around, but I don't know where. So that's the newest one I've got, obviously, 4K camcorder, although I'll mostly be using it for high quality 1080p stuff. You know, that's actually a professional camcorder. It's not a standard like user camcorder. It's like, you know, for TV kind of production level stuff. The one I used for years was this Sony one, Sony Handycam. These are pretty good for the money, but as I was saying in the last video I was talking about this, there are a couple of big flaws with them, so I wouldn't really recommend them for that reason. Actually, saying that, this does have 2 microphones on it. It just doesn't record as 2 separate audio channels, so it's a bit pointless. But yeah. Then before that, for YouTube videos, I used to just use an old compact camera. It might have been a Canon. I can't remember the brand now. I think it was probably a Canon. So I had the compact camera, but I'm pretty sure that only did 720p, not 1080p. And I also had, what were the other things? Obviously, the GoPro I was just showing. But again, bear in mind, I've been doing YouTube videos on here for like 6 years or something. So, you know, a lot of the stuff on here is, well, even it's 7 years at this point. 2012 I started. Yeah, it would be 7 years, wouldn't it? It's 2019 now. But yeah, for a lot of people, a compact camera or DSLR, which you can do video on, is probably the best, you know, multi-choice thing. Yeah, now and again I use my phone to record, but that's only really if it's more convenient to use a phone than anything else. Nobody knows the correct reason, Aaron, if that's how your name's pronounced. There's lots of theories, none have ever held water, really, as in, you know, been proved to be right. Some people said it meant if it was civilian or military. That's not true. Some people said it indicated rank. That certainly wasn't true. You know, there was all these different theories people came up with, some for domestic, some for export. That wasn't true, because the Russians and the Soviets, you know, had both colours in service with the military at the same time and all that sort of stuff. So It was probably they had enough rubber and they were doing double production runs because 5-year plans and all that sort of stuff. You'd want something that would look creepy, retro nerd. Can you get a British light anti-gas respirator cheaply? Because the light anti-gas respirator is kind of creepy looking. They're not. Let me get you a decent price one up salmon on eBay, because I bet you the Chinese hoses are still a good price. And I want one that's for a respirator, not a garden hose. Right, £4.84. So if that's too expensive for you, I think you're not really, you know. But there you go. See that? There you go. That's one of those Chinese hoses that seems to fit on both GOST and NATO masks. They're decently well made. For like a £5, you can't go wrong. I mean, yeah, you will find some sellers selling like NATO military's 40mm hoses for like £30 to £50 a hose, but that's just a rip-off price. No, loads of people have inhaled talcum powder. It's not good to inhale it, but it's also, in the grand scheme of things that are risky, probably not very risky at all. What do you mean? UK airsoft gun video didn't help me get one. What do you mean? Ah, that's interesting, Vladimir. But that was just abandoned at some point, was it? Because, yeah, like the GP4 is obviously like a greeny kind of colour. So that would make sense. Yeah, like green for that. But then, I suppose even in that period, the MM1 was sort of like grey, wasn't it? And that was for military, for tank crews, not industrial. But yeah. I suppose it's the later bit where they were just made lots of the, you know, like helmet-style masks in both black and white, yeah. Evidently, we're talking about what's in the chat. If you read the messages, you can see what we're talking about. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Do I remember when I made a video on my channel? Of course I do. If you mean do airsoft, it will depend totally on the laws in your country and what the airsoft sites say. I mean, if you mean in regards of if your parents will buy you airsoft guns and you've got friends that you can shoot at on private property, there isn't really an age limit. If you mean stuff like, you know, to buy an airsoft gun yourself and take it skirmishing, probably 18. A lot of sites do things like with parental permission. People like from 15 to 18 can do it. But yeah, I'm a bit annoyed more people don't want to talk about the camcorder. MS1. Let me search it. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't recognise it off the top of my head. If you mean the MC one, I've got an MC one. Well, if you're not 18, and the law says until you're 18, it's like a parent or guardian's decision. It's up to them, not you, isn't it? That's just how the law works in lots of countries. Have you told Slingshot Warrior yet, Peach, that you've got slingshot parts? Let me see if I can actually demonstrate the color correction thing on this, because my Sony one definitely couldn't do this as well. So let's just open that up again. The thing I'm having to get used to of this one is all the bits like how opening the lens cover, turning the camera on, pulling this bit out, they're all separate procedures. Where on my old camcorder, everything was just kind of linked in together. And I do like that more on this one once you get used to it. That, you know, everything is kind of a separate action. Right, let's get that as close to the webcam as possible with it on the sort of thing. Right. I don't know how good that's going to look on there because obviously trying to look at an LCD sort of display isn't going to be great. But if I show you what I mean with color correction, which is one of the main things that annoy me with the Sony you couldn't do. Let me just remember out yet onto the menu. It's that one, isn't it? And then it's function. This is quite good. You can do I'm not sure exactly what the function is, but where it sort of lights up the thing quite brightly, which is good in some places where it's darker. Anyway, let me go to the function I was trying to show you, which is the color correction one. And it's quite awkward trying to use the thumb pad with the my hand there. Right, so if we do which one is it? That one. It's with K. So yeah, it's this one. So if you have it on automatic, see that looks very yellow. You might have noticed that now. Although it's just corrected itself now to not look as yellow, but in some rooms that will still be quite yellow. Then you've got daylight. My phone has this weirdly, but not my thing. So daylight's quite yellow looking. Tungsten, that's quite a lot colder. That looks a lot better actually for my room in terms of what the real colors look like. Color temperature, and that's where I've got mine set to a custom value, which is, you know, like halfway between being yellow and blue really, so it kind of looks quite white. And then there's the one where it will try and set it based on what you're looking at. So let's go to set 1. See, that's really blue now. I don't know how well that's going to show up. But then if I go to the set button, it will look at something you're looking at and try and get the white balance correct based on what you're looking at in frame. And you might be able to see on there now that it looks a lot better. It depends how colorblind you are, I guess, really, doesn't it? Because my dad's colorblind, but he's only colorblind between red, green, and brown. So, you know, that wouldn't be a problem. So I was trying to see, because there's other functions I haven't played around with yet on this, which look quite interesting. I haven't tried doing the slow motion and the fast motion stuff. Magnification. Okay, let's see what magnification does. I know what the word magnification means, but how does it work on this camera? How do I select it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, so so you can magnify it as well as the zoom. So let's see how well this focuses in a second. Oh, wow, yeah. Okay. So if you can see that, that's the little kid with the PDF on there. Yeah, so that is yeah, pretty bloody good in terms of the autofocus and the magnification and the zoom put together. I think it can zoom in more digitally, but obviously digital zoom doesn't look as good. Let's just see if there's I want to see like a thing on one of the masks, if there's something I can zoom in. I mean, there's the XL valve on the Y2K, but that's out of frame there, isn't it? Or U2K, whichever one you want to call it up there. So I wonder if you can zoom in more than this. Oh, so you can actually change where it magnifies on the screen as well, so you can have it off center if you want to. All right, let's get rid of that magnification a second. Let's see what the other zoom mode is. Oh, I see. I'll stop that. I think that's where you can have it like zoom in and out without actually using the zoom control. Yeah, I don't really need that function because obviously I like just being able to do it like that. What other options are there on here? I'll show you how good the low light mode is actually on here, because it has an insane, although there's one that's quite low frame rate, it has the same like Gen 1 night vision tier thing on here. So if I go to low light, there we go. When the frame rate will still look okay while you're actually in a room with lights on. But what I'm going to do now is flick the lights off in the room and then look at them it was before. But this low light mode is pretty crazy because it can actually see better than my eye can, at least outside. So Let's get the other light. Right. Okay, I don't know how well this will obviously demonstrate inside, but so let's look for something to look at through the viewfinder. So I'm assuming on the poster you can't see stuff very well with the webcam. Let's zoom in. As I said, the frame rate's quite low now, but like the autofocus will be slower. So there's like a PDF, or it might be the GP4 looking mask. I think that is a PDF, isn't it? There. So I don't know how obvious that is on the camera there. Yeah, it does look all right on my screen, but you should be able to see that much better than you can in the background. Yeah, I mean, the problem is the webcam will do a bit of auto exposure peach, because obviously I can see that better than you can on the screen. But when I took it outside last night, via, you know, like street lights and things like that, it was brighter than what I could see with my eye. I think there might even be some other things on here that might make it a bit brighter. Let's try this bit on. Yeah, that makes that even brighter. Okay, so that's that one. What other functions are there? Exposure. Does that get brighter or darker if I go that way? Is that just between auto and manual? Okay, so, and that's darker, isn't it? So it was on max exposure, which is why it's low frame rate. What other functions are there? Put that back onto auto. What does this one do? That might be sharpness, I think. So that might make stuff look a bit grainy if I have it on, but oh well. But yeah, hopefully you can see on there that the tell you what I'll do. Let me just put that down to there a second, and if the webcam wants to focus on it. See, that's how it looks to the camera. So that should give you a good idea of how much better it looks than the eye does. Just if I put that out of the camera's thing, so the auto exposure should correct itself in a moment. Yeah, right, let me zoom the camcorder out again, and we'll try looking at something else with it. So that's my hand, obviously there. You can see that on the webcam. I'm just seeing if I can get the auto exposure to go up a bit on the stream, but I think it's controlled at YouTube's end where it does that. So I just want it to, if it will, brighten up a bit. So, you know, that's probably as bright as it's going to go in this room anyway, with the lights off. So there's my hand. If we get that under there and put that there, as I said, the frame rate will be a bit low, but hopefully you can see on there that although it's wanting, I think, at the moment to focus. Is that fully zoomed out, or is that still zoomed in a bit? Hang on. That is fully zoomed out. There we go. That's where it should be. There we go. But yeah, I'll put that back and I'll turn the lights on again now. But yeah, the like I say, in the low light mode is actually really impressive on this, because it is 0.3 lux it works to. So as I was saying with Hype, it's like a Gen 1 night vision tier. If they're meant to be 0.1 to 0.4 lux, I think Gen 1 night vision. But yeah, it's a bit more impressive, really, I think, if you see it outside, because that's when, you know, you can use it with the optical zoom as well. You can zoom in on something quite far away and dark, and the camera can still see it quite well. Yeah, it's very good. I'm really liking it. Yeah, for the people who wanted to see what it says on the side of it, there you go. But yeah, obviously I've not done much with it yet, but so far I'm really impressed. It's obviously just learning all the functions of it. I don't really post daily. I mean, I stream quite often, especially on days I'm not doing videos. I wouldn't say I stream daily, or like, you know, do videos daily. And don't need extra lighting for it, Survive. If you're on about with that, no, because as I said, I've got the softbox light you can see over there, but I don't need it with this camera. That's the great thing. Like, yeah, in some shots it would improve things, but for the most part you can film in very low lighting with quite clear video on this. So, you know, for that reason it's pointless setting up extra lighting when it's a camcorder designed to run in really low lighting. So where I've been testing it, you know, an average ceiling light being on in most rooms is good enough that it's really clear and not grainy. Because that was one of the reasons I wanted to go for a more expensive camcorder, is because of just how much better they are, you know, in not ideal circumstances. Because the problem is as well, is even where I've got the softbox light, a lot of the time you can't set it up properly just to do a lot of videos. Because if you had like a big studio kind of space, a softbox would be really good. The problem is with like my softbox, if I want to film something and it's at certain angles, you won't fit a softbox in at the right angle with electrical sockets and everything else and get it looking good. Mine's been up a bit, thankfully, Mike. Yeah, cheers. Mine's been up. Let's check what Social Blade says. I know that's not as accurate now. They changed the thing. But it says I'm up 41% for subscribers in the last 30 days, up 8.2% for views. Yeah, it has been up a bit, but I think I've been quite lucky as well, where YouTube's just put a few of my videos on like recommended things again. So, you know, I've spotted a few of my videos that normally get an all right amount of views per month are getting like, you know, double what they'd normally get. Yeah, I mean, it's not a good investment in the sense of digital technology like that becomes obsolete very quickly, although it has slowed down quite a bit now, because obviously when lots of digital cameras and camcorders were first coming out, every year, you know, like the megapixels and everything went up massively. But it has got to the stage now where for a similar price range and not getting all that many more features. But yeah, obviously in terms of investment for how good the videos will look, definitely, yeah. But yeah, so technology certainly isn't a very good investment in, like, it will be worth much in a lot of years, because a lot of the time it isn't. But the only issue with it, obviously, I knew this getting it, and I'm doing nearly all my videos on the tripod anyway. But obviously, let's say I wanted to go around and shoot with it, it's a bit more awkward. What I would do is actually just use the back screen for that. Oh, don't want it on that setting, I want it on this one. Obviously, I'll probably take that off if I'm doing that, because that digs into your hand, you know, like the tripod mount. But I don't actually have to pull this out to... yeah, there we go. I mean, yeah, you can help, wouldn't it, if I open the front bit? There we go. And then the only other issue as well is some of the functions you can't get out without opening the other bit, because obviously they expect you to use the bigger viewfinder thing anyway. But yeah, there we go. That's that. There's some things that look a bit glitchy on here. I don't know why. Oh, it's that setting I put on, wasn't it? It does like a weird wireframe thing on some things. Ooh, wonder what that setting's actually for. I don't know if the manual actually fully explains. The manual's one of those manuals that's, you know, a bit basic in a lot of ways. But yeah, this is interesting. It's done like a wireframe grid on certain things in the room. Like, you know, it's guessing what it should apply it to. I don't know how that works, but it's weird. Right, let me turn that back off. It's on the exposure controls. I guess it's like stuff that's really bright. It's done the exposure thing on. So hang on. How do I get across to the bit I want to go on? There we go. No, not that bit. That bit 100. Put that down to off. Yeah, there we go. That's back off. So that's some exposure thing. I'll go back to looking at the stream comments in a minute, but that's very interesting. But yeah, there's still loads of things I haven't figured out how to do on it yet. Oh, just in case you wanted to see what the viewfinder looks like, let's hold this up to the webcam. Probably would be quite hard to look through this on the thing, but yeah, It is much harder showing that to the webcam. But yeah, that does work absolutely fine with my eye anyway. But yeah. Like I said, that's the only issue with this, is I'll still end up using the Sony, I think, if I need to do videos more frequently where I want to just put a camera in like a pocket or something. Because obviously this one is a lot more convenient just to, you know, do this with. If it will turn on there. There we go. That's a lot more convenient just for obviously doing, you know, like this sort of shooting if you ever have to. I mean, from all my videos, I generally try and use a tripod. Sometimes it's not always practical. Also, if I was ever doing anything in the garden where there might be a ricochet or whatever, I wouldn't use that. Simple. I'm not going to, you know, take a really expensive, nice optic and then, you know, shoot a slingshot around it or anything like that. I'll show you the manual. I mean, this is the entirety of it. The thing I was really struggling with to begin with, which might sound really stupid, was actually finding the plug-in camera port. And the other thing after that was seeing how much the battery had charged. It's actually there. It's just one of those ports that, because there's so many little hidden compartments on this camera, I was like looking all around underneath and everything for the plug. No, you can get remotes for them, but I've not got one. And I probably wouldn't, because I like to, you know, frame everything myself. One of my other camcorders has got remote. I just never end up using it. Yeah. There is 32 pages in this manual, and lots of them have like big blank bits in it. Like not blank as in they've forgotten to put stuff, but you know, where it's not. But yeah, like I said, this isn't, I imagine there's an online manual that's a bit thicker, but in terms of this is just kind of like how to quickly start using your camcorder style manual. Well, I don't know if you knew, Peach, but that's how I broke one of my old cameras. The riot shield actually physically flew backwards, hit the camera and broke it. Right, video outputs. Here we go. All right, I don't know if that's visible on there, but there is headphone jack, a mic jack, one of the USB type jacks, HDMI, and there's a bit for the remote there. So yeah, mostly HDMI as it's like video output. So what I was going to try and do is see if I could do HDMI to the PC and then stream via this at some point. But I don't know if that would actually work or not, or if I'd actually need to get you know, like separate software, you know, like hardware for it, like a capture card. Because if I need to just get a capture card, I wouldn't bother. But you know, if I could just literally get a HDMI cable, put that into the PC, into my GPU, you know, whatever, have this, and then use that for a stream at some point, that might be a good option. Yeah, if it works, I might do it with a laptop at some point, because that would certainly let me do, you know, quite a decent quality stream in a room without brilliant lighting if I wanted to do a different room. Right, okay, you want it to, so you want the screen to be on the screen, yeah, or the webcam to look at the webcam. Hang on. So, because I can zoom it in really far as well. Let me do it this way around, and then I'll flip it around once I've got it in position for you. Right, so there's the webcam. Should autofocus on that. There we go. There you go. So that's looking at the webcam look. There you go. Yeah, I think my GPU, Vladimir, has quite a few HDMI ports and everything. So yeah, it might work. Yeah, I'll give it a try at some point. Yeah, I've got OBS. Like I said, I've used OBS before. But yeah, it's just more, if I had to buy an expensive capture card, I wouldn't bother. But if I could get one quite cheap, I might. But you've got a picture of JC Denton. Let's see how good like the auto gating type thing is, you know, at like adjusting the screen. Well, this might be weird. Hang on. Yeah, this will look weird. Right, let's find me. Where am I? There I am. I think that's very Big Brother is watching, isn't it? There. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it a bit better. That's going to be more bright now, isn't it? Yeah. But there you go. Um, I'm not getting any gas masked out for this stream, I'm afraid. But yeah, there you go. If you wanted to see the camera, that's that. I just need to keep remembering to close all the bits up, you know, when I'm not using it, because I do not want to scratch the lens on that. There's not any Pornhub tabs open. Don't worry, Peach, because I know people can sometimes say they see things in the glasses reflected, so I'm very careful at what I've got displayed on here. No, the Fallout shelter sign, that one's just a printout. I wouldn't mind getting an old air raid siren if I saw one cheap. Annoyingly, Bart never told me this at the time, but he said, oh, there was a junk shop near where we live, and they had an old World War II air raid siren in for 100 quid, but I couldn't afford it, and then somebody else bought it. I was thinking, for fuck's sake, why didn't you just say to me, they've got an air raid siren in for 100 quid in a junk shop, you know, like an old hand crank one, or that you could attach to an electric motor. And then, you know, I'd have gone and bought that literally the same day. I'd have just driven down in the car, parked outside. Right, can I test your air raid siren works? Okay, here's 100 quid. But no, he didn't tell me, and then of course it got sold. But yes, otherwise I would have had an air raid siren. So I could authentically, I guess, go out with all the NBC gear on, crank an air raid siren, and then start throwing thorium land mantles at people. And see how quickly I get arrested. That would be quite funny. Oh, for those of you that haven't seen it, I'll show you this. I've only done one so far. Also, I was very disappointed because it turns out, here's the open envelope, I'll have it this way so you can't see my address. Where I ordered a load more of these, it turns out these weren't the radioactive ones. So now I just need to find somebody I can actually sell them to cheaply. But they're the safe modern ones. How dare they? They weren't advertised as radioactive ones, but I'm quite disappointed that they weren't. Right, so thorium lamp mantles. The reason that one burnt the other day like it did was because apparently they burn initially to burn like the cotton off, and then it's like the thorium skeleton that's left. So what ended up happening, you know, when I did it properly outside of a blowtorch, is that you get a bit of fire initially, and then you just get the ash which you have to crush down. Yeah, how dare they, Mike? The ones I actually bought, so I ended up spending £50 today on the ones that are definitely have thorium in, where they're £1 each. It says like good old-fashioned thorium, really bright ones. Because the problem is those modern ones apparently don't burn as bright if you actually put them in a gas lantern. Because, you know, they put safe stuff in it, you know, that doesn't burn as bright, you know, where the good old thorium is really, really bright when it burns. So, anyway, I will show you what I'm playing with at the moment. Getting my Rontgen doses. So, although I know this is Sieverts on here, but whatever. So one thing I was just testing is the DKP50 Geiger counter I've got. One thing I was testing with this is I think it is actually working. The obviously you are getting gamma radiation coming off of this, but I couldn't find like a fully translated manual for one of these. But with some dosimeter pens, the bit at the bottom is susceptible to beta radiation, so I didn't know if this one was. So if you actually had this pointing at something that emits beta, whether or not it would do it. But there's alpha, beta, and gamma comes off of the strontium-90. But anyway, what I've been doing, and Mike says he's going to make me a radioactive box, is seeing here, I've only done one so far. There's like the residue from one thorium mantle. And to prove that actually works, I get the Geiger counter. So it's not super radioactive because I've only got one mantle's worth, and I didn't even get a full mantle's worth, but you know. Yeah, cheers, Mike. But yeah, when I get my pack of 50 mantles, what I'm gonna do is definitely melt down enough to get a full test tube. Oh, I got one of those today, but the one I've got is barely radioactive at all, which is quite disappointing. only the mini monitor really gets a reading off of it. But yeah, just, you know, this is why I want to mount these down, just so I can have a concentrated source like this. But again, this isn't even as hot as the strontium I've got. What would a canary do? That's for gas survive, not radiation. No, I'm not really into mess kits. Don't find them very interesting at all. But yeah, I wonder, actually, saying that, how hot this is on the, what's it called? Mini monitor. Let's give it a second to warm up. And then... about 50 to 100. But thorium in the tube I've done, gets to probably just over 10, despite the fact it's, you know, that little in there, which is quite good. So yeah, although with these mantles, I assume it's because it's like a thinner mesh. Out of all of the ones I've got, this one, and I sadly couldn't find any more of these for sale at a decent price in bulk, it's the most radioactive out of all of them. You know, by quite a lot, because that gets to about 100 for a single mantle. Whereas these type, the Tilly mantles, they're still radioactive. But they're like 20 to 30 counts per second, as opposed to nearly 100 with these ones. So, you know, if you're buying these for the thorium content, there's actually more in that type of mantle. But the problem is, as I said, I can find these for £1 each online, whereas these I can only find for £5 each. So, I do like the clicking of a Geiger counter, even though that's probably not a good thing to like the sound of. Wonder how long till somebody shouts, "Wash your hands" in the moment in the stream, even though water does not destroy radiation. You keep asking about NBC suits. As I said, at some point I'll do an NBC suit stream, but I end up answering questions on NBC suits on pretty much every stream, so it doesn't really matter, does it? That's all right. I'm just sort of saying that it's one of those things where on most streams people keep asking me about them. When my pack of 50 lamp mantles comes, though, I definitely want to see how much gamma I can get off of them. Because one of the nice things with thorium is it gives off a fair bit of gamma for its size. Because that's one of the problems I've been having recently, is trying to find gamma sources. Like Americinium 241, it gives off a little bit of gamma, yeah. It's mostly all alpha, but it gives off a bit of gamma. You know, and then there's stuff like Fiesta where the uranium glaze gives off a little bit of gamma as well as the alpha and beta. You know, and lots of stuff like that. And I mean, sadly, cesium-137 is quite hard to buy, otherwise I'd just get some cesium-137. You know, I'm perfectly willing to pay for it. It's just, unfortunately, I don't think they trust people who don't work in the nuclear industry of owning it, even though I've got some strontium-90 now, but oh well. But, you know, it's that sort of thing. So, yeah, cesium-137 would be really cool, just because as long as it was in a lead-lined box. If if you get uranium marbles, the ones that are made out of uranium glass, yes, they are radioactive, but they're not all that radioactive. Because I've got a uranium glass bowl over there. If I put that next to the Geiger counters, you maybe get 3 counts per second. It's not all that high. The marbles, if they're really dense and they have a high uranium content, might be better. But in general, uranium glass isn't all that radioactive. Can you stop spamming the chat, please, Manos? That'll be your last warning, by the way. I could do survive. Sadly, whenever I've taken the Geiger counter out and about with me, I've never got a good reading. What I've actually got coming, because I've decided to buy one, is because you can get them for under £50 now, is the Chinese Geiger counters, which are pretty similar to the SOEX ones. Just because I basically want to do a proper review of it, saying for £50, you know, or less, are they good little portable Geiger counters? I'm hoping they're going to be pretty decent. Because if you don't know how these work with the modern Geiger counters, you can see it there. All they are is literally a Geiger counter tube. That's the metal bit. That's like the heart of a Geiger counter. It's the bit that attracts the like electrons or photons or whatever they are. However, because I'm not that into radiation as much as I find it cool, the science way. Because Geiger counters are pretty fascinating how they actually work. On the retro one, although it's got loads of electronics built around it because of how they actually were built, all it is an ampere or whatever they're called. Amperes, is it? Ampere? Ampere? You know the thing that measures the strength of electrical things in an electrical circuit? So if you put an ampere or whatever they're called in the middle of an electrical circuit, it tells you like how many watts or whatever it is going around the, or amps, wouldn't it? It'd be amps, is going around the circuit. A Geiger counter literally is an ampere with the Geiger counter tube. So the, you know, radioactive, the ionizing radiation going into the tube is the bit that actually, like the probe, is actually the bit that just gets the ampere to go up on the readings. Which, you know, when I found that, I was like, that's fascinatingly simple. Because I assume Geigers were more complicated than that, but they're actually not. It's literally something which the ionizing particles go into, and then it just gives a readout in electrical current, which is actually really kind of interesting. So then, something like this, the modern ones, it's just where they've got the Geiger counter tube still there, which you can see, but it's just everything is kind of shrunk down onto a tiny little circuit board with, you know, like an LCD or whatever screen on it. Well, have a think. Look what's behind me. Have a think, Roberto. You need to work it out for yourself, even though I've said loads of times on this channel. See if you can figure it out. If you can't, I'm sorry. But, yeah. But what I'm interested in seeing is with these £50 Chinese units, will the measurements be accurate? Because if I basically run a, you know, run it against some of my other dosimeters, you know, with whatever. Yeah, Dixon knows. Yeah. What I want to do is with the Chinese one, basically run it against some more expensive Geiger counter units and see how accurate the thing is. Well, I got sent this one for free by another YouTuber called Ziggy Jinx. Yeah, it was Ziggy Jinx, not Jiggy Zinks. What was it? Fuck. I think it was Ziggy Jinx. Pretty sure it's Ziggy Jinx. He sent it to me because he'd been sent one to review, but he didn't really have anything radioactive. Now, there is one problem with little Geiger counters. They're about 100 to 110 pounds. That's not the problem. The problem with these are, and I'll find out if the Chinese one does the same thing when I get it, if this is exposed to strong sources of radiation, it starts fucking with the battery and overheating it. That's one of the massive advantages to like the big old retro Geiger counters. You know, what seems retro to us today. The old, you know, like cathode ray tube style Geiger counters. With all the old fashioned circuitry in. Is because they're such big, you know, clunky units that use old electronics, there's no way, you know, they're going to overheat and overload if you get them next to high radiation sources. So to give you an example of that, also something I need to mention with Geiger counters, for people who are interested, and I might do a video on this at some point. because a lot of people never mention this when they do videos on Geiger counters, and it's really annoying me now where I'm trying to look at, where, say you're like trying to look at a video of a radioactive sample, and you want to get an idea of what the, like Rontgens or sieverts are an hour coming off of it. What's really annoying is a lot of people will have the Geiger counters like the old retro ones, like where I've got that Polish one there, or they'll use the American CDC or CDV ones, whatever they're called, where there's a multiplier. So, it's like 0.1, 1, 10, 100, and they won't show you what the multiplier's on. So it's pointless showing what the needle's showing on the screen because you have no idea what the actual reading is. On a digital one, it's fine because it will give you the actual reading on a digital display. On a retro Geiger counter, if I just show you this, just so people know what I'm on about, hope I've not bored everybody off at this point talking about old Geiger counters, but I find them really interesting, actually. I'm going to need to re-secure that shelf soon because it keeps wobbling where, like, when the screws come up the bottom. So, if I show you this, right, see on this, there's a multiplier. So this one goes from 0.5 millirontgen per hour up to a 200 times multiplier on Rontgen per hour. So how it works, if you look at the thing, is see that 1 to 5 or 0 to 5, it has 0, 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that count there. You times whatever that is by the multiplier you've got it set to. So if I just did a video, zoomed in there on the screen, and not showing you what the multiplier was on, it's useless information because you don't actually get a true number. So yeah, the good thing of these old chunky units is that they never seem to ever have a problem, like overheating. I mean, you could still potentially overload and blow a Geiger tube with it, because that's just how Geiger counters work. But because they've got a lot more, space between components for the heat and everything, compared to like little mini circuit boards that are in these things. I mean, just literally compare the size of these two units. CT12 Dixon, not the FM12. Yeah, if you literally can just compare the size of these units here. Although, yes, for convenience and everything, that is much better on size, and for most people, this would definitely do the job better. The main issue is, like I was saying, that these will overheat very quickly. So what I found is if I put this on my strontium-90 source, what ends up happening is in about an hour's time of being on the strontium-90 source, it will either drain the batteries or overload the Geiger counter to the point it stops taking readings accurately, and potentially blow it. Well, that wouldn't happen with one of these. Well, it potentially could, but, the chances are so much smaller because these are obviously built for a really big current. So, like in Chernobyl, the TV series, where they said that, when they tried to take a reading, one of the Geigers they turned on, it blew straight away. Like it went to maximum and blew. And the guy's like, oh, Moscow sends us shit equipment and they wonder why things go wrong. Karin says that. That is actually truthful. If you get a little Geiger counter like this, I know they didn't have little ones like this in the Soviet Union, but the point stands. If you had a little small Geiger counter like this, you turn that on in a place like Chernobyl where you've got, tens of thousands of Rontgen per hour, like 15 sieverts or something coming out per hour. They would literally blow really quickly just because they can't handle the current going through them that, that Geiger tube would essentially generate. It's called a Geiger counter. I mean, technically it's called a Geiger-Müller counter. Those are called, the Russians and the Soviet bloc called those Rontgen dosimeters, as in Rontgen is the radiation unit it measures. But in the West, we wouldn't really call that a dosimeter, because a dosimeter is something that shows you an accumulative dose. A Geiger-Müller counter like that just shows you what you're currently reading out. But yeah, dosimeter, Geiger counter. Most people would just call them a Geiger counter, and that's a pretty, accurate term for it. But yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say now, but yeah. And interestingly enough, that's something they got right in the television show. I know Chernobyl did get a lot of things right, although some people keep moaning about the little minor things they got wrong or just change the simplicity. When Sitnikov says they found the old Geiger counter in the military fire department and they turned it on and it maxed out at 200 Rontgen, 200 Rontgen is the top reading the Soviet DP5 series of Geiger counters can do. So I just thought that was a nice touch. You know, now I've been playing with a DP5 recently. That, you know, its max reading is 200 Rontgen, and they said it maxed out at 200 Rontgen. So there you go, because it's got a separate scale on it for the like big Rontgen chart, and the switch goes. It says 200. So when it's switched to that, you look at the bottom chart, and then the numbers are the exact reading it's taking. Yeah, it's. But what I couldn't work out, Mike, because I actually want to know this now, is, you know, when he says it's not 3 Rontgen, it's 15,000, when the army bloke goes in with a truck, he says our high-range dosimeter arrives, I want to find out what model they supposedly had for that. Because I don't actually know if the Soviets or anybody had Geiger counters that could read that higher dose. Because, for example, that Polish DP75 is better than the standard Soviet DP5 Geiger counters, and that's max reading on the highest multiplier is 2,500 Rontgen per hour. So I don't know if you can actually get Geiger counters that would go up to 15,000. I mean, in theory, like a modern one would, because it doesn't rely on multipliers. But the issue is, like I was saying, that would literally explode within a couple of seconds, or just, you know, the batteries would go flat because of what radiation would do to the electrical circuit. The vast amounts of surplus that's come out of it, Roberto, I'd say, you know, and that would be the same for any kind of, you know, potentially evil empire collapses. At least the surplus would be cheap if they made a lot of stuff. Yeah, I thought about trying metal detecting, but there's not really anywhere near me you can legally do it, because the problem is, although you can go around with metal detector, you can't dig stuff up if you find it there. But yeah. For those of you that are interested, just in case you want to see it, because I can never help myself, and it's bad for me, and I keep doing it. Right. Strontium-90. You're going to see something very radioactive, and you're going to see the problems of these little Geiger counters. I'm relatively safe holding it like this, weirdly enough, because the strontium, a little bit will shoot out from the sides. It nearly all shoots out frontally. So if I hold it like this, or even better, actually, hold it like that. So there we go. My hand's not really near it. So, strontium-90, something you get in nuclear fission. It's in fallout. Very dangerous if it gets in your body. It's pretty much guaranteed to give you cancer and kill you. So, let's look at the dose. We're at 1.81 microsieverts from all the stuff I've been playing around with earlier. And that was some stuff before the stream as well. So, let's go to searching mode. Then watch what happens when I just go like this in front of the strontium. Right, so that was quite a bloody big spike just there, right? Now, let me go to the standard measuring screen. That's already dangerous, right? But we're going to keep taking this closer and closer. So I'm just going to put it on the strontium itself. Yeah, I forgot there are places like that where you can do it, but I'm not close to any beaches, sadly, and the local footpaths where I am, you definitely couldn't dig up. Mostly to keep industry working, Johnny. That's the kind of cynical answer, because of how a planned economy works. Pretty unrelated to Sea Dog, but I'm not getting rid of it at the end of November. So yeah, that's the thing. But what I want to see, if you can see on here, is the battery icon is up there, right? What I want you to see is, you might see the battery icons moving. See how quickly that's going up and down, up and down. It only ever does that on the strontium or other high thing source. And it's literally because the radiation is fucking with the batteries and the Geiger counter. So yeah, now let's go to the dose, right? All right, that isn't even fully on the strontium, actually, the reading it's getting there. Is that? Yeah, that's more on it now. Okay, so what you're going to see in a moment I think I ought to do a proper video on that at some point, Mike, is that little number at the bottom where it says at the moment 156 microsieverts an hour. That is what it guesstimates you'll be getting like in an hour based on averages. When you're on the strontium like this, it will get to 500 roughly microsieverts an hour, give or take, you know, like 50. To give that is insanely high. When I've done it with the other Geiger counter, it's 1.25 Rontgens per hour in, you know, old-fashioned Rontgen units. But yeah, let's say I'm going to dose now. Again, we're already at 10 point something sieverts. But the problem you'll start noticing of this is, like I said, after a while, you can actually hear it doing it as well, right? Let me close the strontium off. Right. I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone. It's making like a high-pitched whining noise. It's not meant to make that noise. Can you hear that on the microphone? It's just literally what the strontium... Yeah, the noise cancelling probably cuts it out, unfortunately. But yeah, what's happened is the strontium has literally fucked with the battery and everything there. Yeah, because if you look at the battery symbol now, I don't think it's moving. Because, you know, I've taken it away from the source. Let me hold that back a bit. Yeah, although that's going to be quite hard to see. I think that stopped fluctuating horribly now. If it wants to focus, probably won't. There you go. But what you can hopefully see there is the battery's not jittering up and down. No, it's not, Connor, because if I turn this on and I don't expose it to anything like that, it never makes that noise. It's only when it goes on the strontium that it starts going, like making that sort of noise. So no, it's not the current. It's literally that something's been fucked to it. Because this stopped working properly after the first time I put on the strontium for a couple of hours. Because it would just stop taking a reading after a while. Unless you mean underpowered as in, like, the radiation is fucking with it. But, yeah. So yeah, strontium 90. In case you kids were thinking about getting strontium 90 to play with it, I think thankfully you can't. I think in America you can buy strontium 90 just because it's America, and of course you could, and like cesium 137. But in most of Europe, you can only buy it if you work in nuclear energy industry thing, or you know somebody who just happens to have someone who can set you up with it. Nah, definitely can't grow a good goatee. I just have a moustache. Anyway, I'll be going on. Yeah, the old Geiger noises are much better, like the one the mini monitor there makes. Yeah. Like I've shown before, I don't want to keep doing it because the strontium on that could actually blow the thing because it's high accuracy like lab Geiger. But yeah, if I put the strontium on that, it literally maxes out at 2K counts per second, you know, with the needle going like that. And then it just, you know, like I said, and I'm not going to blow that because it's got an alpha probe on it, and alpha probes are expensive. Sadly, I don't think you can really get Pip-Boys. I'm sure you can buy some Bethesda plastic tap Pip-Boy from like a Fallout 76 Game of the Year edition or something. But in terms of, you know, a real Pip-Boy, sadly, no. The Nuclear Boy Scout, yeah, I know all about that. A lot of people have been joking recently that I'm turning into them. No, sadly, because they're export banned from America, Connor. So they sometimes turn up on UK eBay, but they'll go for stupid money, and I'm not paying that for, you know, a standard Geiger counter when you can buy like all the European ones over here for, you know, like a quarter of the price. I mean, I did really want one when it was turning up recently, just so I could, you know, do the gamma radiation thing on it with the kind of screen you could hold up like that, just because I thought it looked good. It's really hard, actually, annoyingly, to get the old British Geiger counters. A lot of them weren't any good, to be honest, compared to like the Russian and American ones, and, like the Polish ones, basically any of the Warsaw Pact ones. But a couple of the models of them were quite nice in terms of, like, you know, functions. But one of the things I read about the British Geiger counters, which was actually kind of like who designed this, was that one of the most issued British Geiger counters, the range of the display on it, and I don't think it had a multiplier, was 1 to 10 Rontgen per hour. So if you were being exposed to like 900 millirontgen per hour of radiation, you wouldn't even know, because the needle wouldn't move, because it's, you know, 1 Rontgen or more. If you were being horribly irradiated, you'd have that 3.6 problem of where the needle would be on 10, and then you would have no idea what the radiation actually is. You know, something like that Polish one can go less than half a millisievert of radiation per hour to millirontgen per hour to 2,500 Rontgen per hour. That's a massive range you can use with the selector switch on that. Because when they mass-produced the British kind of Geiger counter, they basically put it in the range of the radiation has to be fairly high before it will show up on it, and then it will barely show up before it goes off the chart, and you can't take a reading anymore. When you say Geiger alarm survive, how do you mean exactly? Do you mean like the Polish RS-70 radiation alarm kind of thing? Because as far as I'm aware, all that does is it has an ionization chamber for like gamma and X-rays, and then uses the like Ampere style system just to know when, you know, it's gone above a certain point. Yeah, new Half-Life looks shit, doesn't it, sadly? Like, everybody wants episode 3, so let's not make episode 3. Yeah, the ones that do an alarm when they hit a certain amount of radiation, like I can show you one because I've got one here, but I can't actually demonstrate it because I've not got the batteries in it. And I don't have anything high enough in gamma to trigger this, which is one of the reasons I want a gamma source, which I'll eventually get when I mount down on the thorium lamp mantles. How this works, so it says 0, 5, 5, and 30. So that will be Rontgen per hour. And how this would work, obviously, is, so like say you had it on 0.5, that would be 0.5 Rontgen per hour. And how it would work is once enough gamma radiation is going into the ionization chamber in this to set it off, it would actually, you know, just cause the thing to just start beeping. But otherwise, these don't do much, you know. They're pretty pointless compared to Geiger counters, because you have to go above what they're set to sound the alarm. Otherwise, they just don't do anything. Although, saying that, I'm going to have a proper play about with this. See where it says N there? When you've got batteries in there, there's a little light in there. I know there's some kinds of these equipment that actually get brighter and brighter, the light, the more radiation they're exposed to. I don't know if this does that, because if this does, you can actually at least tell by the light if it's encountering anything or not, even when you're below an alarm threshold. But, you know, the problem with something like this is if you were being exposed to 0.4 Rontgens per hour, that's not very healthy, and you wouldn't be told. You know, that's the issue of a lot of these Geigers that start off at a very arbitrary range of where they're going to tell you stuff. I mean, I'm assuming this is Rontgens rather than millirontgens, because 30 times millirontgen wouldn't be a very high scale. 0.5 milli. No, I definitely have triggered that already with 0.5 millirontgen, because I've just tried putting all my radioactive stuff, you know, around it like that, and then, you know, it's never set off. But yeah, that will do it for this stream. So thanks for watching. Hope everybody likes the look of the new camcorder. And yeah, I hope people, you know, yeah, exactly. Only goes off when you're screwed. But you know, there's no real way of testing it before then. I suppose right in a lab, they test it with a check source, wouldn't they? When they have a lead case, they open it with cesium-137 in. the alarm sounds, you close the case again, you know it works. But yeah, right, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good evening. See you all at some other point. I'll probably stream tomorrow, but I don't know exactly when yet. So see you then.